think there's a picture you drew earlier that we've all seen, and it's been published all over the place. Sure. But it's all about the slopes. And so if you take each of these things and say they are segments of time, they each had a growth slope associated to them.
A data growth slope. So
data
think
growth.
of it like that.
So
yep.
Mainframe, you said it's kind of flat. It grows very slowly.
Yes. It grows with the organic growth of the business is how I look at that. You know, as the business grows, it's going to grow, and there's going to be a higher correlation.
It's very tight.
It is tight.
Business changes, so does the mainframe.
That's right.
Instance.
New policies
and
come
that's
on
even
board.
true today.
That is absolutely
it's
true
a
today.
slow-moving thing.
It is.
It takes sometimes years to get changes and edits to the back-end systems.
100% agree with that.
Well, what about RDBMS? So the growth, what is it? What have we seen
now
there?
We're going to see a curve with a much more steeper slope because you are growing data. You're duplicating data. You're replicating admin systems. Now I need to have data dimensions because this is what's important to me. And now I'm going to replicate those data dimensions because it doesn't include this pocket of data. And so you're going to see the growth of data and the data stores because it's cheap. And I put that in quotes.
No pain.
Spin it up. So that's the start of that. So what about
And then
Hadoop?
it's obvious. Hadoop is almost upright.
Yeah, because you could just dump anything there. It's a file. It's the
File.
same. By
It's
the
easy.
way, it's similar architecture as the mainframe. It's all file, unstructured. But the difference is mainframe had the pain to get to it. This is no pain. You put data science in here, and now they're throwing anything they can into Hadoop.
And the thing we have to always remember, we should never ever forget, is that these are not, and the reason it seems like such a basic chart, and like everybody and their brother should know this stuff. And Ryan, you probably got opinions on this. And we've seen every blog out there is writing, well, data growth is exponential. And no duh. But it's how. The how is
that always
really
cracks me up, by the way, because when you're dealing in online world, when you're measuring clicks with data growth, absolutely. But when you're dealing with an industry like mine, an insurance industry, it should not be growing exponentially, but it is.
But it is.
It's because of our platforms.
No pain.
The no pain.
The no pain. And so the thing that we gotta click into and really understand, and this is something we're gonna talk about in a few minutes with what is a data savvy executive?
Yep.
It's not about paying attention to these trend lines and these buzzwords and these things. It's about really understanding the machine, breaking down how is all of this working, what is causing that, and what are some of the things at play that might be underlying and more important. And so the one thing I want to point out is it is not like this ever goes away. So if we say A is here, this trend doesn't go away. It's still present. We've still got mainframe growth going on.
Yep.
When you get to Hadoop, it's not like B and A go away. You still have also RDBMS growing on its own continuum. You also have mainframe growing on its own continuum.
And now you're
adding Hadoop. And so the true exponential nature of growth, and I think you brought up something really, really important, and if I had green, I would use it. Let's use the green.
Green's hard to mark off.
So what you introduced is this idea of how correlated is this growth to the business model. And so each of these things have their own relationship to the business model.
It has to. By the way, I don't know if that's always true in organizations. I think it needs to be correlated, but we're going to see that ratio is greater with some that have data savvy executives, which we'll talk about, and less with others that are just throwing things out there.
So I think it's always true. I mean, you're always going to have some.
You have a correlation. It's the degree of it.
Where I agree with you though is that what is true about your statement is the combination of where the correlation exists will always differ.
Yeah, that's right. That's a true statement. I
right.
agree with that.
In any company, there's going to be a couple of data savvy quants and champions within the organization, and when you find them, they're the ones that are driving the correlation between data growth and whatever they own, right? Whatever they care about. And so this lays out a pretty interesting concept. And the thing I would ask you, I was like sitting chief data officer and think through myself, of course, but how do we guide this? This is a machine. It's a complicated thing. You got multiple things moving at the same time. It's a lot more complicated than the blogs indicate. It's more than superficial. And so how do you put an ecosystem around this, a machine, that really gets this same sort of outcome we had back in the mainframe days with, because there was pain, we actually built pretty good stuff and we built stable things.
Yep.
Not from a tech perspective, from a data structure and a data utilization perspective. And so how do we inflict pain and provide feedback
Yep.
to the organization, like, this is hot, don't touch it again.
That's
How
right.
do you do that without slowing down the process?
This is hot. This is what it means. This is where you need to go. That sounds like metadata, right? We need to enrich our metadata conceptually and how that all
So
fits
metadata,
together.
that's a fun. That's
Which
a
I hate that word. We
ridiculous
really
word.
need to change that.
What does metadata even mean? Ryan, what does metadata mean?
Data about data, I would
That's
say.
that's
Who created that?
That's
by the way?
helpful.
What's the history of metadata?
data about data.
Was it a
That's
technician that said that?
Pretty sure if you use the word in the definition, it doesn't count.
That's right.
So that's the best I can do for right now.
Okay,
So-
right.
no, but
You tell me.
but it is that open. So the problem with metadata is that that's how big it is.
Yeah.
It's gigantic. It's never ending. It's everything around the thing except the thing, right?
So does this make sense from your perspective, Ryan, as we talk through this concept of how data is growing exponentially, how the pain is actually correlated to that exponential growth and so forth?
Yeah.
Like
well,
logically?
Right. Yeah. Well, also to some degree, the amount of pain inflicted, whether it's financial or just time and effort, it ensured that the investments in data were very direct to the strategy because you didn't want to put too much into it. Now that it's easy, you just do it, right?
Yep.
And if you just do it, you forget why you're doing it, how
Yep.
you're doing it, what's the business objective that this is related to in the first place, or are we just growing our data?
Yeah. So what's interesting too, and I'm going to say one thing before we move on to metadata, because I think that's going to be critical to all of this, is this explosion. We talk about one of it as being hacked. Mainframes, okay, prior to mainframes were punch cards.
Right.
People are
Same.
and they
same
run through it.
model. Yeah.
That stuff never got hacked, because who's going to hack a punch card?
Yeah.
Mainframes, that's hard to get into, it's hard to get data out. That hardly ever gets hacked. Even today, I would guarantee the data that was hacked out of Equitrust was not a mainframe that was hacked. But now, all of a sudden, we're replicating mainframes into a database. That's a little bit easier, right? They're pretty standardized, hence the word SQL.
They come with
You know,
maps.
it comes
Yeah.
with maps. You know how to write code. As long as you get the right person, you get the password, you can query your butt off. And now you're in Hadoop, which is unstructured, but it's easy to get to and access, and the entry point is actually easier than mainframe. I think we can correlate the probability of being hacked increases as we go down this in spectrum. So that is another element that we need to put
Yeah, the
more
risk-
controls
the risk
around and how
factor.
that process works with maybe metadata.
So the big question is how do you and I'm using pain in a loose way here. So how do you enforce or inflict pain so the body learns, right? So you don't touch the hot pan.
I love that, by the way. I'm a weightlifter, right?
Yeah.
You don't grow muscles without actually doing some pain of lifting, and then you're breaking your
There's gotta
muscles
be a little
down,
pain.
and then you bring it back together by eating.
And so in training,
Yeah, and
it's
and
all
eating.
about training, and it's exactly right. And so, but how do you do that without slowing down the business process?
Yeah, that's a
without
good
slowing
question.
down the operations. And you and I are both quants.
Yep.
And we build models.
Yep.
The nature of model design and determining your features and what feature engineering you're doing
Yep.
is iterative. You have no idea what you're looking for until you find it.
Yep.
Statistically, right?
I completely
You're
agree
looking
with
for
that.
an R square or some sort of a relationship to
Yep.
the outcome. And so, how do you keep doing that with providing a little bit of pain and not introducing all these procedures and processes and bureaucracy, which we see a lot of our technology brethren doing, right?
Because that's where they go. Everybody goes to their filters.
Process, control.
My comfort is control, and
Yeah.
data is much more fluid than that, as we're seeing. So how do we make it fluid and innovative without stopping it?